What is up, guys? In today's tutorial we're going to be learning how to create this image that you see right in front of you. Now we've covered over how to select one person from a background and move her over to a different one and switch out the skies. That's all good and all, but I feel like we need a little more practice on how to use the selection tool. Apart from that, I'll be going into detail or how it is that masking actually works. What is it that it's doing, and how can we use it to our benefit? So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So as you can see right here, I have this image of this car, and the car is, hanging out on the road. And if you didn't see all my layers here, you'd probably even think that it belonged there, but no, it didn't. This was the original, then I added that, then I removed that, then I added that shadow, and then I added this to kind of give it the whole combination of it belonging together. Now this is a very quick tutorial. So the very first thing we're going to need to do is I'm going to go ahead and file and save this, save as. I'm going to save this one as creating a composite 2 and save it as a Photoshop file. So the first thing we need to do, go ahead and open up Photoshop. So when you open up Photoshop, the first thing it's going to tell you is create a new document or open a new document. Now this part some of you get confused apparently. When you create a new document, you're going to give the dimensions of this document. When you open a document, you're pretty much just going to open a specific image or file or anything like that. So we'll go ahead and go to File, Open. The first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and make sure you navigate over to the images that I provided for you. These two. And we're going to go ahead and press Control on our keyboard, and we're going to open up both of them. So now we have both of these images opened. Now, of course, we want to get the car over to this side. And this is where I wanted you guys to continue to practice, because it seems to me like a lot of you tend to overlook this, or you find it quite difficult. So we're going to go ahead and grab our quick selection tool. Make sure you have a plus. And I'm going to switch this over to around 55 pixels. Yeah, that's pretty good. 55 pixels. Now, there is two ways to select this. You click and hold and you start dragging around, which is good, right? But it can make mistakes. Well, sometimes, I guess. Didn't make any right there. But that's one way anyways, right? The other way is just to click, 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 and move just a little bit each time. And it tries to do it for you. And sometimes that's a little better, because it selects the stuff that you need quite easier, as you can see here. Now notice it did not grab the inside of the headlight, so I'm going to go ahead and press in there. And so what we want to do essentially here is try to select this entire car. Now I know some of you struggle with this, and I know some of you find it quite hard, but do not ask your neighbor and do not ask me to help you with this part. This assignment is very short, so you will have more than enough time to get it done in class. So please try your very best to select this correctly. Now from here we're just going to continue. I'm just clicking, making sure that everything is selected properly. Let's go ahead and grab these tires and grab this part of the hood. Now notice right here that it decided to select all this part that's up on top. So how can we select it? By holding Alt on our keyboard, you notice that the plus changes to a minus. That minus sign will allow us to deselect some of this stuff. Notice I'm not deselecting really close to the edge, I'm just deselecting up on top. And anything else that I see here that it's still grabbing. There's still a little part right here, so I'm just going to click one time. There you go. So for the most part, I have pretty much everything I want selected, minus the mirrors right here on the side. So I'm just going to click, click, click. And I'm just doing it little by little, alright? Don't take your time with this, make sure you do it correctly. So this part right here, I've done it before and I realized that it was going to give me trouble. So I'm actually going to leave this part just like that, and that's going to be a good opportunity for us to talk about masks. What are masks? How do they work? So now I'm going to head over to this one over here. There we go. So that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to go ahead and do is go over to Select and Mask. Under Select and Mask, you'll notice that there's a couple of mistakes that I've made. For example, down here on the side, it did not quite grab the tire completely. I might try to fix that. It's actually going to just make it worse. So I'm just going to leave that as is. So for this particular one, we messed up. Well, I messed up right here. It did not grab this little part. There's a lot of mess up parts up here in the top, but that's okay. So for this particular part, what we're going to end up doing is just clicking a new layer with layer masks. The reason why we do that is because it creates, and I'll go ahead and press OK, creates this right here. This is called a layer mask. Now, what is a layer mask? A layer mask, essentially what it does is it hides or it makes something visible, my bad. So it's either going to show it or not show it. That's pretty much what it's doing. Everything that's black is being hidden. Anything that's white is being shown. So the cool thing about working with masks is that if you grab a brush, you can select the picture here and you color with it, and it's just going to color on top of the picture. Or you can select your mask, which is right next to it, and if you color with black, it'll disappear it, and if you color with white, it'll reappear it. With this selected and our mask selected, let's go ahead and talk about the hardness and softness of a brush. So if you right click on a brush, you get your little menus right here. With your menu, you have this one that says, well, size, of course, which will make your brush either bigger or smaller. Then you have hardness. And hardness, what it does is it makes your edge soft. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a black brush just so I can erase some stuff here. And I'm going to show you what happens whenever you erase with 0 at hardness. You notice the edges. Notice these specific edges, how they're kind of soft towards the edge. And if we go over here and make our hardness at 100, notice how now it's really straight around the edge, right? That's the difference when you mess around with your hardness and your softness. So at this one, I'm going to want my hardness around 89%. That's going to give me a hard edge, but just a little bit of softness towards the edges. So what I'm going to do here is this one right here. Obviously, if I'm using black, it's going to hide stuff. So what do I want to use? White. So let's go ahead and grab white and color that in. Then I'm going to go ahead and color in white right here to bring that up. Now, a little trick that I like to use is shift. If you click right here, I'm going to switch back to black. If I click one time and then hold shift and click somewhere up here, it creates a straight line. So the best way to see that is if I click here and hold shift and then click here, it creates a straight line. That's very useful for when you're trying to make straight edges with the brush, but you keep messing up. So black is obviously going to hide things here, so I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, down to around 30%. Now I'm going to go ahead and click here. Holding shift, I'm just going to make a straight line this way, up, side, so on and so forth, right? So what I'm doing here is just making straight lines. That's allowing me to make a pretty good cutout of this thing. Then this part I can just erase. Now if you make a mistake, you can always switch back to white and color it back in. So don't worry about making mistakes. So then I'm going to continue with black. I'm going to erase this part. And then I'm going to erase this part right here. Up here, I'm actually going to switch over to white. So notice all I'm doing is pressing this little arrow keys and it switches from black to white. Or I can press X and that switches for me. So I'm going to switch over to white and I'm going to color this in by holding shift. Then hold X and erase these parts right here. Okay, so that gave me a pretty good cutout. I'll come here, do the same thing with this, so hide some of these parts that I messed up in. Alright, so we have a pretty good selection here. That looks pretty good. Now remember, all this was done in the layer mask. That's the whole point of a layer mask. So from here, we're going to go ahead and select our move tool, grab our guy right here, drag him up, bring him down, and then let go. Boom. We now have a car. We're going to press edit and free transform. Now, this is very important, guys. Make sure you hold shift while doing this. Do not resize this guy without holding shift. Shift is very important. We're going to put this guy right around here and press OK. Now you notice he doesn't have a shadow, but the original image did have a shadow, and that shadow actually worked really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Ctrl J. That gives me two of them right here. Now I need to bring back the shadow. How can I do that? Let's take a guess. I'm going to do it without actually saying it. So make sure we color right here. And I'm actually going to make this soft. So I'm going to bring this down to 0. That way it gives me those soft edges that I really, really want. Now that I've done that, you can see some of this white part, which was of the other thing. So what I'm going to do is lower the opacity. I'm going to drop down the opacity to around, give or take, 85%. And then, switching again to the other color, I'm going to erase those little white parts. There you go. So the white part is now erased. And you can kind of see the yellow lines still there. And it looks really good. Now we just need to top this off and finish him off with a color that's going to make it be kind of unique to it. So I'm going to create a new layer. And with this new layer, I'm just going to come over here and select a blue. If you want to select the same color I'm selecting, just copy these numbers that are right here. Pause the video and copy them. Otherwise, just select a blue. On the bottom one, I'm going to select an orange. Something like that. Again, copy those numbers if you want the exact color. If not, then that's fine. And press OK. From there, we need to select our gradient tool. If you don't see the gradient tool, just make sure you leave it pressed right here and you'll see the gradient tool. Then we need to make sure that we have our gradient selected that will create a straight line. Our linear gradient. Make sure this is set to normal. Make sure this is set to 100. This is dither and transparency. From there, we're going to select up here at the top and just go down. Just like so. So we'll have blue and orange. From there, we're just going to select this over to overlay. And then drop down the opacity down to around 50%. There we go. So now we have this cool little picture that we have created. And it looks very, very realistic. Now, one of the things about this is our angles. I looked for a car that looked like the picture was taken straight ahead so that I could be able to put it with a picture that was taken straight ahead. in the field or in the road. I hope that you guys were able to learn a little bit more about selecting items and how it works. How to make it look realistic by making your shadow look as good as possible, and how to bring it all together with a color combination to make everything blend in. Uh, at the end of the day, at the end, once you're done, you will be taking a small little quiz, and at the end, once you're done, you will be taking a small little quiz on Schoology, so you will submit both for a grade. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.